Hey guys, welcome back to the Hype Mind. We got a good topic for you today. Today's topic is how prayer influences our own self-progress.
Yeah. So it's common for people to respond with crisis in their life by praying. If a friend tells you that something bad happened to them, or that they're in need of help, or that someone they know passed away, right? A lot of times you'll say, "Hey, I'll pray for them. I'll keep them in my prayers," because there's not a lot else you can do um, in those situations. I think that's the most common response, is to offer prayers, right? And a lot of times when we see people in trouble and we don't know how else to help, we will turn to the supernatural and offer prayers. And the neat thing about that, our goal here is to introduce a new concept, just something to think about. Perhaps it's a logical breakdown, but a lot of times when you revert to prayer, you you'll use a prayer that's already been written. you know um, I'm familiar with a lot of Christian prayers, and Christianity has a lot of novenas and various other prayers to different individuals, um, or just common prayers. And when you break those prayers down, you'll notice that a lot of times they'll address you. They'll be like, "I am asking for your help. You know, Hear my intention. Help me through this place of hardship." Blah blah blah. Even though you're saying that prayer for someone else, a lot of times it's very much in the first person. And I think that we don't really notice that, but I think it's worth noticing, because what I noticed when I noticed that, right? I'll just share my story. There's a couple of people that I pray for on a daily basis. I believe in prayer. Um, and I remember one day thinking, wow, I'm reading this prayer for this person, and it sounds like I'm asking for help for myself the way it's worded. And I was like, should I be saying that person's name and putting it in place of the first person pronouns? But I was like, no, I'm going to stick to the prayer. And so this happened a couple more times, and I kept wondering about it. And it dawned on me, it's very common for people to say that if you want to change the world, i.e., other people, then you need to first look at yourself and change yourself and be the person you want others to be. And so then I put two and two together, and this is the concept I'm introducing to you. And I was like, wow, so maybe prayers for others are actually directed at yourself, so that you will change yourself, so that others will desire to change as a result of seeing you change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that does make sense. I I like that perspective too, just because you get to lose the attachment of somebody else's results.
Hmm.
You get to lose the attachment of what you want in a way too. So try this perspective out too, to where you're praying. You're praying for, a wise way to pray is to, because you're praying for someone because if you're praying for someone, feel like
They need your
you feel
prayers.
like they need it. Yeah. You feel like that need. And because of that feeling, right? That's why you pray for them.
Hmm.
And it might not be so much for them. It might be for the feeling you have, right? And how to handle it, right? In the way,
Yeah, that could be true. I mean,
right?
a lot of people will be like, well, I'm praying because that person died and I'm praying for their soul. But to some extent, you are sorry for the other person's loss, or you're sorry for the loss, the maybe the little bit of sorrow that you're experiencing from losing someone, whatever the case is. That's an interesting point too that you make. But
Right.
but
Well, it's just
um
not, it's not only about the, spiritual effects from your prayer onto that other person, right? It's about what it does to you,
Yeah.
how it shapes you.
Well, I think I think it's definitely beneficial in two ways. And the first is obviously while you're praying for them, and prayers do get answered, um, assuming they're in alignment with the holy will of God, um, which is good, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is it calls to attention yourself, because you're praying for someone to improve, or for, you know, for betterment in some area of their life. But how can you ask someone to improve if you're lacking? And prayers, this perspective that I have now is that prayers kind of call that out, and they're kind of a mirror, and they show you the reflection of what you need to work on. And they're like,
Right.
well, you're praying for them because you want them to do better here, or you want their success here. And it kind of reflects back in you and says, well, are you being successful? What areas do you need to work on? Because when you say the prayer, the words are very much, I need help, I want this, help me have this, etc. And so I think that's good, because the prayer kind of reverses it, and reverses the role, and kind of says, you want to change the world, you want to change your friend, you go change yourself.
Yep. Start with yourself.
It really makes you reflect on your own weaknesses, and then you say, well, not only am I having this perspective of faith where I am praying for the betterment of another and trusting in God to answer that prayer, but it's also has a practical side where it's calling attention to your own shortcomings, and practicality says, like we said about in the beginning, to change the world, you change yourself. And when the prayer calls that out, you also have not only a perspective of faith in God, but also a perspective of what's practical, because you realize, oh, I do have shortcomings. I had best change these if I will influence others. So you can influence them through prayer and through change. And the beauty about prayer is it not only allows you to have that action of faith, but it also reminds you to take action practically.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that
Yeah.
perspective because, it reminds you of, you only have the control of you and yourself,
Yeah.
right? And
Well, I
that's why
also,
prayer is reflecting back on you. So start with yourself, right? You're still praying for them, but it's also meaning start with yourself and fixing an area in your life where it needs to be fixed too.
yeah. And I also think the beautiful thing is that when you look at it that way, you see two aspects. You see implementations of the divine, right? You must have faith to pray for someone else. Otherwise, you wouldn't pray for them. And implementations of the material world, the human beings, the body portion of it. The part you can see, not the supernatural, untouchable, unseeable portion where you have to have faith, but the practical, realistic, area that most people look at today. The part that's easy to believe. And that's the call to look at your own shortcomings and change those in the world. So it really takes two aspects in when you do that. The human aspect and the divine aspect, right? The ability to have faith and change lives, and the ability to be practical through your own actions and change lives.
Right. And I think those two sides are super, super important.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's important, is because it actually implements two at the same
Right.
time. It's like watch this. You don't even realize you're getting the best of both worlds,
Right. Yeah.
So
Love it.
check
Awesome.
that out.
All right, guys. There we go.
There we go.
Have a
Peace.
good one. Peace.